What's up, everyone? Welcome to the March 5th edition of DraftKings Tournament Plays presented by PrizePicks. I'm your host, Adam Scherer. You can follow me on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And as a reminder, you get 1 free month of Awesemo plus Platinum when you sign up and make a deposit at PrizePicks. Be sure to use the code Awesemo to receive a 100% first deposit bonus up to $100. We have a 5-game NBA slate tonight. Bit of injury news that we're still waiting on. So, as usual, check out the Live Before Lock show leading up until tip on the Awesemo YouTube channel. But for now, we're going to take a look at 5 of the top tournament options on DraftKings, the way things currently stand. Coming in at number 5, Klay Thompson, projected for 13% ownership with a 16% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Thompson has a favorable matchup against the Los Angeles Lakers. He's averaged 1.17 DraftKings points per minute this year, and he's likely to give you around 30 minutes in this game. Shooting guard and small forward eligible at $6,500 on DraftKings. Should be pretty easy to get him into lineups as well. Number 4, Mo Bamba, projected for 13% ownership with a 16% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Bamba is only $5,300, center only. And after failing miserably as chalk last night, in part due to foul trouble, but also just poor performance, he's going to get to play once again without Wendell Carter Jr. tonight. Bamba overall this season has averaged 1.02 DraftKings points per minute in 4 games as a starter without Carter. Bamba has averaged 1.09 DraftKings points per minute. And overall this season without Carter on the floor, Bamba has averaged 1.18 DraftKings points per minute. He does have a relatively difficult matchup with Steven Adams as the opposing center, but very high upside option who, if he's able to avoid foul trouble and if this game does stay remotely close, which is another big question, he's likely to give you, at least 28 to 30 minutes. On average, I think 26 is a pretty good estimate when you do factor in blowout, foul trouble, all of that. But he still projects as a very strong option given his point per minute production. Number 3, Keon Johnson, projected for 14% ownership with a 24% chance of being in the optimal lineup. He is shooting guard only on DraftKings, but he's also only $3,200. The Blazers are a absolute mess right now. They've been shorthanded, obviously, with no Damian Lillard. CJ McCollum is gone. Josh Hart is resting tonight. Yusuf Nurkic remains out. Justice Winslow remains out. This is essentially a G League team going up against the Minnesota Timberwolves, with the exception of Anthony Simons. But Keon Johnson, I expect, will move back into the starting lineup. He was replaced by Elijah Hughes in the last game, but now with Hart out, my assumption is that Keon Johnson will start. Johnson also played garbage time last game. He's someone that I would expect to play garbage time regardless of his starting status, just because the Blazers have no reason not to play him. He's a former first-round pick. He's still young. You're not going to get many opportunities to develop someone like that. He's only, when your team is good, so you may as well take advantage of it now. He's only played 18 games in his NBA career. He hasn't been a great fantasy producer. He's only averaged 0.72 DraftKings points per minute in his 18 career games. He's averaged 0.43 DraftKings points per minute in like 60 minutes played with the Blazers. But this is a team where, outside of Simons, there's really no legitimate NBA talent on this team. So you're talking about Johnson being in a situation where he can get, some more volume, some more looks than he would if he were playing with even, a couple of NBA level players. Number 2, Drew Eubanks, sticking with this awful Portland team. Eubanks, I think, is a bit riskier than Johnson in terms of playing time, but we also have a better idea of what to expect from a production standpoint. Eubanks this season between San Antonio and Portland has averaged 1.02 DraftKings points per minute. He's projected for 23% ownership with a 26% chance of being in the optimal lineup. He is center only on DraftKings at 4,600. The risk with Eubanks is that if this game blows out, he's likely to only play 18 minutes or so. That's what we saw in the last game against Phoenix. But if this game's competitive, you could get 26 to 28 minutes from Eubanks, who averages over a fantasy point per minute in what would likely be a high-scoring game. He's getting much less ownership than Trendon Watford, who is sort of the opposite of Eubanks. I expect them to split 48 minutes. If this game's competitive, I expect Eubanks to be on the winning end of the timeshare. If this game is a blowout, I expect Watford to be on the winning end of the timeshare. It's a situation where I think Watford is also a good play, but if at basically the same price point, if a lot more of the field is going to just expect Watford to play more minutes because of a blowout, there is pretty strong reason in tournaments to go to Drew Eubanks instead. And number 1, the top tournament option on tonight's slate, getting away from the Blazers and going to another god-awful team, LeBron James is projected for 26% ownership with a 34% chance of being in the optimal lineup. He's currently listed as questionable. He's always listed as questionable. I am fully assuming that he's going to play. He's small forward only on DraftKings, which makes no sense at all, but makes it a little bit more difficult to get him into lineups. Even though the Lakers are really bad and LeBron seemingly has, at least to some extent, maybe checked out, he's still averaging 1.57 DraftKings points per minute in the games he's played without Anthony Davis this year. He's averaging 36.7 minutes per game. I don't really know how to quantify LeBron James' motivation to play basketball at this point. I'm still treating it like he's going to go out there and play well. His teammates are going to play awful. And whatever happens, happens. So there is still some risk there just because this team is so bad. Obviously, they're also going up against a strong Golden State team, but James is projected to be a bit underowned here. So to recap, the top 5 tournament options on DraftKings: number 5, Klay Thompson; number 4, Mo Bamba; number 3, Keon Johnson; number 2, Drew Eubanks; and number 1, LeBron James.